heard of Shining Force Neo? Only a few, which is good, because let me tell the rest of you not to play this thing. But first, let me take you back to 1994. 1994 was a great year. Shining Force 2 came out, and I loved this game. It was this awesome tactical RPG with really nice art, very good gameplay. So when I saw this thing on the shelf, I was like, a new Shining Force game? This is 2005 at this point. Oh man, I thought they would never make another one. I bought it on site without even checking. I have been disappointed and angry ever since. Is the lights okay for people? Alright, so let me drive right in here. Why is this game so disappointing? It's basically a really bad Diablo clone, for one thing. The weapons aren't really as cool. There's like only two kind of enhancement slot things. You can go to your menu whenever you want to switch items, which is like dozens of layers to change your weapons. And they want you to change your weapons fairly often. The stores don't really sell anything very good, and somehow things get more expensive the more you buy, so I'm not sure what's going on there. You can't learn any spells in the game. They're all tied to your weapons, and when you change weapons, you just get a new set of spells. There's only 4 of those, so that doesn't really work very well. And yet all these other items at the bottom of the screen are only for, you only use one button to get all of them. So it's a pretty inefficient layout. In fact, let's talk about the layout. Here's the standard controller, and here's what they tell you it's used for. But really, you're pretty much going to use healing potions as a square and hit the O button for the rest of the game. You're going to do nothing but hammer on that button. There's no combos, there's no cleverness, there's no real special moves. It's just you and the O button, forever. No auto attack either, you just got to keep slugging through them. It seems like, here we were at the board meeting, right? They're like, I don't know, this game, it turns out it's not fun. What are we going to do? Add more of everything. Just make the game bigger. That'll make it better, right? So, I mean, they just add more of everything. Statistics, and spells, and plot, and all this other nonsense. It's still crushingly boring. It doesn't fix that problem. Now there's more of it. For instance, there's more battles with a lot more enemies. These gate things summon like dozens, if not hundreds of enemies whenever you find them, and you have to like kill them to progress. They also respawn as soon as you leave the area. So they just padded it out with that. And battles are huge affairs with tons of monsters, but they're never interesting. Let me give you a video example here, and I really hope this works. Alright, in terms of volume here. This is the first boss battle in the game. This is what's supposed to get you interested in playing this game, just hacking through waves of identical monsters that never stop spawning. Just terrible. Battles start off fairly ridiculous with a lot of stuff going on screen, but they just, like, get worse and worse and worse. Like, I have no idea what is happening. I can't even see them. I have 3 characters on my team. I don't know where any of them are in this shot. And this happens all the time. Here's a few more video examples. In fact, I think this is the battle I was just taking that clip from. There's me hacking through some stuff. Don't know where I am exactly. You can't look for the damage to happen. That's where you are. Here's another example. Get attacked by so many birds, it looks like some kind of pixel nightmare up there. Or this fine battle. Towards the end of the game, where you're just sludging your way into these horrible creatures. And finally, one of my favorite examples, where my mouse went, me being attacked by dragons. You heard me, dragons? Hello? There we go. I'm somewhere in that mass of fire. I'm not really sure where, the game isn't really sure where, and even the characters understand how ridiculous this game is. Even they know that there's way too much stuff in the game. Now beyond that, everything in this game is about having bigger numbers. Now you might say to yourself, you know what, plenty of RPGs are about bigger numbers. I understand that. But those games also have other things like skill and team construction and strategy and so on. Neo doesn't have any of that. Remember the O button. So all you have is bigger numbers. So they start kind of small and they get bigger throughout the game, and bigger, and bigger, and bigger, and bigger, and bigger. And at what point did these numbers stop being meaningful in any way? I have no idea what that even means. So as a result, there's really only 3 kinds of battle in the game. If your numbers are bigger than their numbers, you just basically mash that O button and they all die. Very boring. If your numbers are about even, you're still going to win, it just takes longer. And if their numbers are bigger than yours, instant death. Because, you know, you only have like a couple thousand HP, and I'm doing millions of damage. So if the numbers are off by even a little bit, you're just going to die. You'll see this screen way too often just by wandering into the wrong area. I have a perfect example of this. So here's me walking around the beginner area, the first area in the game. You know video? cool-looking crypt thing. I'm like, all right, let's go explore. This ought to be fun.
How would you do that?
Now the music kicks in. This is going to be great. Instant. Instant. So great. It's a game about grinding. That's what it is. You're going to grind through this game, and there's nothing else for it. Like, the day I passed level 99 was probably the worst day. I was like, wait, it doesn't stop? No, it just keeps going. Now, what do you get for all of these levels? You get stats. You get piles and piles and piles and piles of stats. None of which really make all that much sense. Everything is calculated differently. It's never made clear how it works. Let me take an example, attack and defense. So you'd think these two screens are probably going to oppose each other, so you can figure out what your stuff would do to an enemy. Well, that seems fairly straightforward. I got that. All right, E versus 23%. That doesn't really make sense. All right, 11 times 1.4. And then I already have things for like knockdown or petrify, so I guess I can't do those? I don't know, but that didn't help me understand the game. And then things get totally out of hand. Like the percentages just go off the wall. So like, and I have 2,000% stun resistance, but there are enemies who will regularly stun me. I have 300% critical, and there are enemies that are not immune to critical, but don't get critical anyway. So you don't even know what those numbers mean. You're like, is 2,000 good? I don't know. Then there's the statuses. There's only 4 statuses in the game. These are 4 statuses. They all do the same thing. They just stop you from attacking for a little while. So there's nothing like poison or blind or anything like that. But again, looking at those numbers, so stun has this like resistance number and then a recovery number, how long it takes you to get back up. But knock down and knock back do not have a recovery number, except that they're basically the same thing. And there's petrify. You can't dodge petrify. You always get petrified. Just a matter of how long it takes you to get back up. So even that's kind of screwed up. So finally, you get around to equipping an item and you're like, is that good? Like, you could be swinging by 300 or 400% and never know if it's going to make a difference in battle. It doesn't help that there's this thing called the force frame, which is basically permanent staff upgrades you can buy throughout the game. But like everything else, in the spirit of more, there's just hundreds of pages of things you could be putting your skill points into. You're like, great, what does this one do? Oh, thank you for telling me about how awful petrify is. That's great. The frame is also the only way you can affect this entire other stats page I haven't really talked about, because even I don't know what any of those stats mean. I don't know what minimum defense is, I don't know what steps does, like forget it. It's clear that even without the stats, that there's too much bloat in this game. They said, hey, you could be a guy with a sword or a wizard or an archer or whatever, but you know what? You don't want to be any of those things. Here's magic. Depending on which kind of magic you pick, you might hit maybe 4 guys tops with a lightning spell to get them in a line. Bows, you're going to hit 1 dude. The sword, you're going to hit literally everything in a 3.2 meter swath around your character. We're talking like 30 or 40 people. The sword that already does the most damage in the game. Why would you ever be anything except the guy with the sword? There's no reason to. And then they put in stealth, just to say they had stealth. Now, if you remember, the point of the game is to destroy these monster gates. You can't sneak up on the monster gate. You can't backstab the monster gate. You can kill all the monsters that spawn from the gate, and then you can kill the gate. So, here's me trying some stealth action. Let's check it out. Alright, cool, invisible spell. Alright, let's roll. So we're going to go down here, we're going to sneak up on these snake guys, and oh, wait, what's that? Side party members? You didn't get the message? You're just going to start beating people up? So, I don't know why stealth is in this game, because your party members do not respect the fact that you're stealth, and there's nothing to sneak by anyway. But you know what? Enough about the game's broken and horrible design. I want to talk about characters. So, I mean, of course you can imagine if you've ever played an RPG in your life, what the main character is like. He's some justice guy. He likes justice. You've got the point. Then there's the love interest. I mean, again, you couldn't make her more cookie cutter if you tried. Now, I did have a special place in my heart for Captain Eyebrows. I mean, yeah, he's got something about justice, but seriously, look at those eyebrows. Good lord. Who else do we have? Here's the rest of our boring side case. I'm going to take the quotes for their characters directly from the game itself. Justice, faithful, more justice, justicey justice, literally has no defining characteristics of any kind, and despises humans. I don't know about you, kid, but whatever. But what you say about this guy at the bottom here? Well, he's special. This is him close up.
He's wearing a monocle.
A wolf man with a monocle, you're saying, that's pretty dumb, but wait, it's better. Here's his in-game character description. Wait for it. Boom, he's a ninja!
What?
A ninja wolfman with a monocle. Oh yeah. So now, every character in the game has some kind of ridiculous quirk. Like Grant here he doesn't drink alcohol. He only drinks lattes or something with extra honey. It's just these dumb little things. But my favorite of all of them is Max. Max has this problem where he can't talk to royalty without becoming stupid. Like, here he is trying to talk to this guy and kind of biting his tongue. Yep, that's my boy. In fact, why don't we take a listen to Max as he attempts to explain something here. Let me crack this up a little bit for you.
Nice to meet you, sir. I come from, ouch, from green sleeves. My name is, Max.
I mean, you gotta put up with this nonsense for the entire game. Because you're gonna learn to hate each and every one of your characters. Now, battles are long. If you use an ability, they say an attack phrase, of which they have only one for that ability. So let me give you a couple of examples here. Let me try this guy up again. So here's this guy. Actually, let me run that again. Die, scum, over and over again. Or her, I don't know. And this guy, I'm not even sure what he's saying. Alright, let's just move on. Sometimes the attack phrases don't even make sense, like in this video. Here we are, out of battle, and totally not near anybody. Max, watch out! They're all around. No, wait, we're just standing there. That's great. And your character also has a phrase he says anytime he gets knocked back or stunned or petrified or any of those other thousands of status effects I was talking about. But it will repeat itself every time you get hit. So let's take a listen. It can get completely out of hand. These characters have like a thrusting attack. No way! We're gonna put him out of his misery there. But like, suffice to say, all you'll hear is no way if he's fighting the wrong kind of enemy. But then there's Meryl here. Meryl has the worst attack phrase in the game. Here it comes. Hot stuff coming your way. Now, that's already fairly bad, but the problem is abilities. Magic counts as an ability in this game, and she can only use magic, and she can spam that spell every 2 seconds. So like, she'll be saying this non-stop. This right here is basically the game in a nutshell. Ready? Now, you might not believe me on this, but I prepared a video of her doing exactly this. Here we go. She can't hit the target, so she'll just keep casting. Yep, she'll just keep plinking away that thing forever. So by the time you actually get 2 other party members in your party, and you're using abilities yourself, battles just get like loud and annoying and repetitive. Let's take a look. So on back to the plot. Here's the plot in a nutshell for you guys. Max and Meryl here, and all those useless sidekicks I was talking about. Receive a quest from Captain Eyebrows to go help some kind of clown brigade or something. Defend themselves against these jerks. Pretty much the most generic villains you're ever going to get. So the plot starts out well enough. We're going to go get the ordeal of light or whatever, but almost immediately nosedives when we meet Captain Eyebrows, because he demands from us the duel of the century. This is the duel that is going to define how combat works in this game, and I have taken the liberty of recording it for you, so you can see the game's introduction to combat. Let's take a look. only one button in this game. So this duel is... This goes on for like 3 minutes. Before finally triggering, like you don't kill him, he's just like, alright, very good son, or whatever.
It's so epic.
Oh, it's epic. You're like, yes, this is what I've been training for. But anyway, whatever. This guy shows up and he smashes this crystal thing, and very quickly you get some kind of magical doohickey to save the world with, and there you go. Save the world from the power of darkness, which is about as generic as you can possibly ask for. And we gotta save these crystal things. Now, I'm gonna cut a very long game short for you. He breaks all the crystals, alright? You do not defend the crystal successfully because he can teleport anywhere he wants instantaneously. Which makes it pretty hard for you to stop him. Like, even this guy gets it. He's like, I don't know, guys, he can teleport. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Even the characters describe it. They're like, well, he's always one step ahead of us, but he never breaks the crystal, like, until we get there. So we can just side quest as much as we want. It's canon, he won't show up until we get there and, you know, screw us over. Would you shut up? But anyway, he summons the ridiculous-looking dark castle, which never, like, appears on the outside again. I think they had, like, a cutscene left over they wanted to use for something. And then nothing happens after the castle gets summoned. It just kind of sits up there looking menacing. And they tell me I gotta grind some more. Well, that's great. So, literally there's a thing called the ordeal that you need to go through to prove yourself grindy enough to go meet the boss. The boss is also totally cool with this. He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna chill. So let me tell you about the ordeal. The ordeal is this randomly generated dungeon with just unbelievable numbers of monsters in it. And once you clear a floor, there's 10 more. There are 10 floors of this randomly generated nonsense. But if it wasn't bad enough, there's 3 sets of 10 floors of randomly generated nonsense. It's this 3-part quest. And they're all made of the same pieces in the end. So you'd be seeing these beds and this minecart over and over and over again. Shut up! Shut up! It takes forever to do these quests, as the in-game journal helpfully informs me. Thank you, in-game journal. In fact, the journal is a great way to watch my free time slip into the toilet. Oh yeah, I beat this game for you guys. So here we go, the final battle. We're gonna go fight the bad guy there, Dark Castle. But first, let me give you a plot recap. Dark Castle to the Dark Gate to get to the Dark Sentinel and stop the Dark Dragon. Dark. Got it. Very generic. Long story short, we totally kill that guy. We get he takes his power to seal off the thing. We get all the things that everyone's happy with us, and then everything explodes. Don't ask me. Then the game asks if you want to play it again because they put a thing somewhere in the world. You want to go look for it? No. But what makes the game so much worse that even everything I've been describing up till now is that a lot of it is voice acting. And it is some of the most bad voice acting I've ever heard. So what's going to come now is a whole bunch of tasty voice acting clips. Here's some wooden delivery from our favorite Captain Eyebrows.
But you give me your best shot, like you're going to kill me.
Or the main villain here.
You got me. I was defeated so horribly.
That's great. Now, if you didn't have enough wooden delivery, there's also guys like this that just totally overact all of their lines.
I didn't think you'd have the strength to come this far. But your journey ends here. This place is filled with power granted by my master. Wielding this power, you're just worms to me. Helpless, meek worms.
Yeah, that's great, buddy. Or this guy, you're the villain.
What happened to Unicorn Hat?
That look on your face! I love it! It is awesome!
Or this guy, he's a minor character, like a minor villain, that has way more lines than he deserves.
Victory! Victory! In it, I am the shining force! Me! Greed!
Wow. But then, in case you were guessing, Meryl. Meryl's like friggin' the worst. So I've got a lovely set for you here. Let's take a listen.
Listen here.
fire.
It's so dark. There are so many drugs and scary-looking people.
Like, who wrote these lines? And then her best R2D2 impression.
Oh, okay.
And this one, feel the conviction. Oh my, yes. What's this one here? Oh, shut up! Then there's this thing, named Cheeky Tita, for some reason, who has the worst voice acting.
You should be ashamed of yourself. Outnumbering them? It's not fair. Only cowards do that. You really want to fight, is that it? All right, then. You leave me no choice. Allow me to show you a quick time.
Oh. As you can also tell, she talks way too much.
So, you're also very strong. Much stronger than me, and
Yeah.
I think you know. Maybe you should all try out your voices.
And then shock.
What? No, no, no! No! This is terrible!
Alright, let's just leave her behind and go on to whatever's wrong with this guy.
The monsters at Rising Crimson Moon. Both reached the events of 13 years ago.
But nothing quite compares to him, like, just going agape over the main, like, Captain Eyebrows' main attack.
Giant Nova.
He is so excited about the attack. But now I'm going to give you, in order, my 3 favorite worst voice acting lines in this game. So here they come.
A monster in the wall. A wall monster.
That's right, folks, a wall monster. Or this guy. I don't know what his director was saying to him, but
I've been expecting you, Max. You have done well in defeating my 2 brothers. For that, I salute you.
this guy has like minutes of dialogue. Why? But my favorite, at some point in the game, Meryl turns traitor and goes to the other side briefly, but isn't really like totally committed, so you keep trying to bring her back. This.
You're so sweet. You're too kind. It's too much for me. It hurts too much. I don't know what to believe anymore. I can't even trust myself. I don't know what to do.
Oh my god. So I guess I'll take questions out to the panel, but I guess what I'm getting to is it gets to the point in this game where you really stop paying attention to what they're saying because they say so much of it. And instead, pay attention to their eyebrows. Many times in dialogue, it looks like we're going to have an awesome eyebrow fight. In fact, let's take a look. Oh, looks like Max is getting serious here, but Captain Eyebrows is obviously in the lead. But wait, what's this? They're getting even bigger. Oh no. Final attack, everyone! And yet, all of these battles always end the same way. Tragedy. Tragedy. No one can beat those eyebrows. So basically, I guess what I'm getting at is the plot isn't very good. Like, I have 2,200-something screen caps, and 80% of them are just dialogue, but I've told you the whole plot. And you really don't need to know any more to, like, get what's going on. So, if I was to sum up the game, I guess I would say it's lazy. Like, there's these items on the ground, you gotta hit the X button to pick them up. They said, hey, what if you hold down X while you pick them up a little faster? Why do you just have you automatically pick them up? You think you're so clever. But the interface. Alright. Every one of these items needs to be identified. There's a button for that. And every time I click on it, it says, are you sure you want to identify it? And there's no way to all identify it. You go to the list of like 30 items every time you want to look at something. Or the enemy design. Here's a guy that takes something out of his backpack and chucks it at you. And he does a little bit of damage. Every one of those is supposed to be a bomb, which is 100% dud rating. Why would you even bother rating that? Just say they're not bombs. The level layouts are stupid. Don't go here because we told you to. The translations are lazy, whatever relax station is. My biggest peeves is there's no like compass to tell you where to go in the game. That thing up there, the image of a compass, it doesn't move. It's just there to taunt you. So here's this featureless, blasted snow wasteland, and they just fill it with irritating, mocking signs, telling you, oh, it's just right over there. Keep going. Go left. Go right. Go up. So you're just like wandering around looking for where it wants you to go next. You know what? Screw you, sign. I hate you guys. And then there's like the difference. They have like animated cutscenes in the thing. But they didn't really, like, talk to the guys. They don't really look a whole lot like the guys in the picture. Shut up! Like, did anybody get the memo about this guy's hair color? No, I guess not. All right, that's fine. I mean, I guess what you get when you hire, no-name studios like, wait, what? Really? You guys wasted your talents? Oh, whatever. But before I go, a last parting bit of laziness. They made enough money off of this thing to make another game called Shining Force Exit 2 years later. You might remember it because I covered it a few years ago. And they stole every art asset they possibly could from this game to make that one. The castle is the same exact layout. The snow level is identical. This fire area, I swear my characters are standing in the exact same spot they were in the first game. So, just watch out for this thing. In closing, no aspect of this game is any good at all. Avoid it, if at all possible. And finally, hot stuff coming your way.
Thank you, Scott, for that dire warning. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Oh God. Scott, I don't think I can do this. I cannot go back to jail. Fine, okay. People need to be warned. I had the speech before. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am about to describe to you the culmination of 3 years of work and no small amount of blood, sweat, and mostly tears. So, those of you who've been following us for the past couple of years know that I've been playing my way through the Tonelico game series. Tonelico 1 had confusing but serviceable combat, and some very awkward moments with lots and lots of really inappropriate innuendo. It didn't end well, but I made it through. My buddy here, Matt, God rest his soul, said that he would help me slog through Tonelico 2. Combat was more complicated than ever. The characters were just great. As you see in Legacy Exit, but through a lot of physical therapy and psychological counseling, it was time to finish this awful hat trick and play the J-est of all JRPGs, Tonelico Qoga. Oh boy, let's get going. So I boot her up and off we go. There's some backstory, I don't care, it's not important. All you guys need to know is that there are 3 groups in this world: Plastania, a nation of magical girls trying to oppress humanity; Archaea, a shady group of human scientists; and the Great Fang, normal human beings that are rebelling against Plastania. Get it? Got it? Good. Let's kick off phase 1. At least this time they tell you it's episodic, rather than springing it on you 1/3 of the way through like Tonelico 1 did. You are Auto, an orphan handyman and steeplejack from a backwater Great Fang town. Real original, but what the heck's a steeplejack? Wow, steeplejacks are awesome. And handsome. Unfortunately, you're this guy. So, at the very beginning, he stops a bunch of soldiers from attacking a young woman, meets a 15-year-old amnesiac magical girl, or Raven-tail as they call them, named Saki. And, wait a minute, no, she's not just amnesiac, she's also childlike and speaks in 3rd person. That's just dandy game. Well, we get into our first battle shortly after this, which in true Tonelico fashion starts by beating women in the face. Saki strips off all of her clothes to cast magic to turn the enemy soldiers into cakes? What? Some kind of state of pastry on light? I don't care, she is a love interest. this game, I'm ready to kick her off that cliff there, just to be safe. I don't trust it. She calls this thing a miracle, but I call it the stuff of nightmares. Anyway, we also meet our first non-Raventail character, Tatsumi, or as I will refer to him from now on, DJ One Slice, who uses words like convo with a straight face and hits people with a hoverboard. That's his attack. Not an hour later, we get another Raventail character thrown at us, named Finnell, who lives in the town we're going to, conveniently enough. And we also meet Dr. Hikari Gojo, aka Sigmund Fraulein. It took me a while, but now, until he opens his mouth, you don't know that's a guy. Now that our party's assembled, let's take a minute to talk about how battles have changed since our Tonelico 1 and 2. Back then, they were pretty traditional, side by side, stand in a line, hit the other dudes. They had some interesting twists like rhythm defense, or any kind of super magical attack like this crazy thing that's going on back here, but they weren't particularly fun. Now the game has made its way into 3D, and it handles like the alcoholic cousin of one of the Tales of Blank creators designed it. You attack by mashing the square button, over and over again. You may recognize this from my friends panel. It's basically the same thing. That's about it. You want to know how to block? You want to know how to block by doing nothing. Literally, by not touching any buttons or moving the stick at all. So, yeah, you can attack and run around. You can also use super moves, but they cost HP, and there's no reason to use them. Or you can use items if you're feeling ambitious. The game throws them at you by the truckload. Except the only things that are worth anything are healing items. The others are worth bugger all. Your basic attacks do more damage than any of these things. What else can we do? Anything? Well, we have to protect our Raventails so that they can use something called song magic. Song magic is the game's one difference between it and 90% of all the other JRPGs in existence. It's basically a giant oh screw this button that tells you how to blast enemies with a huge spell you've been charging up. Song magic is also a representation of the Raventail's inner mind. What a pantsless cat girl with a necktie, bunny wand, and welding mask, what does that represent? I don't know, but much like my bookie, after a bad run at the tables, it beats the hell out of me. So we've got the controls, most of which are essentially useless, but what about those shoulder buttons up there? They've got to be used for something. Well, some of you sharp-eyed folks may have noticed that there's an M rating on the box. Unlike the teen rating inexplicably given in episodes 1 and 2. Well, there's a few reasons for that, and here's the big one. Purging. When you do enough damage in battle, you get to hit one of those shoulder buttons and shake the controller really hard, so that the Raventail's clothes disintegrate, exposing more skin and boosting their power. They say it's because showing more skin lets them absorb power from the planet, but no other Raventail in the history of any one of these games ever had to do it, so I calls it what it is, pervy BS. I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay with this game. Yes. This game has you stripping girls in battle in order to use magic. Thank you, Tonelico Qoga, for making me a quantifiably worse person. Back to what amounts to a plot. We get caught up in a rebellion against Klosania, that nation of Raventails that's suppressing humanity, and we can find out that DJ One Slice has some ulterior motive in Klosania. Never trust a man in chaps, I say. And it also turns out that this clown assassin here that's been chasing us is actually... Wait, Finnell? Oh no. Oh no! Each of the Raventails has multiple personalities in their heads that manifest as new bodies. You'll notice here, actually, that when that was brought up, this guy decided to parrot it. Yeah, that happens a lot. There will be more on this later. Anyway, we're off track. What are your goals at this point in the game? You're only in Act 1. You gotta protect Saki and Finnell, can't get killed or captured, and you have to join the Great Fang, rebelling against Klosania. So how does that work out? Well, we gotta hide in this village to keep Klosania from kidnapping Saki. So why the heck am I taking part in a fake wedding? Where did this come from? Or what happened to make this happen? Predictably, we get betrayed by these villagers from the outset. Meet one of Finnell's other personae after getting captured. She's a bomb-loving fetish nurse. At least she looks like she's older than 15 this time. And her attack is a giant missile-firing robot. Congratulations, Japan. You found the closest thing to what amounts to a fetish. Missile-based artillery in the age of consent. So, despite everything I just said, we let Saki get kidnapped at least twice during these proceedings and have to join the rebellion in order to free her. We rescue her and decide to use her power for some kind of anti-Raventail super weapon to aid the rebels, which requires her to dance around like she's having some kind of full body seizure for 5 minutes. And we even get to meet the enemy general, Economy, who seems to know more about Finnl than we do and doesn't really lead me to trust anyone. And we meet this woman. Much like my friend's panel earlier, there's a lot of voice acting in this game. I've decided to only give you some of the very best highlights, but this woman has so many lines just like this. Every single time. Well, anyway, she offers to help us figure out what's wrong with Saki and Finnl if we continue to aid the rebellion. And we move on to Phase 2. Well, we're not doing so well with the goals of Phase 1, unfortunately. We're about halfway towards not, losing, I guess. So what do we get in Phase 2? We gotta keep protecting Saki and Finnl, aid the Genericon rebellion some more, and not get murdered by Tlastania. Seems simple enough. We're given copious backstory, which you already heard in the first 2 games. We meet the obviously evil head of the science lab named Raphael, who takes Saki off of our hands for her own safety. And pretty much everyone who isn't Auto realizes right off the bat that he's just a, kidnapping jerk. So we grab the empty-headed girl, and I'm beginning to think that our goal of protecting these 2 ladies is doomed from the start. We rejoin the rebellion to assault Tlastania. We meet some losers from our Tonelico 1, one of whom is doing his best Solid Snake impression.
Hey, who's the imposter?
And the attack on Tlastania fails miserably. Like everything in between the last shot that looked like this and this one, nothing changes. But at the end, we do get into the tower of our Tonelico, where we're supposed to be able to fix whatever's causing Saki and Finnl to split into multiple personae. Oh, it's also killing them, in case that wasn't obvious, because that's the only way you can raise the stakes. So we find this 12-year-old girl who is supposed to be some kind of demigoddess, who's supposed to be able to save the 2 of them, but we only can save them if we get to her room at the top of the tower, a place called the Rinkernator. The Rinkernator. Sorry, that sounds like a really intense Zamboni ride or something. But then that clown assassin Soma pops out of Finnl and demands that we hand over some kind of technical magical doohickey called, no joke, the 4th dimensional core square ring. They can just keep busting out the stupid names on this one. DJ One Slice agrees to take her on, but demands that it not be in combat. We won't fight each other. So instead, they decide to have a hoverboard race. We might as well have said Cocker Spaniels at 20 paces for all the sense that made. Soma doesn't seem to care about the whole not fighting bit, and she almost kills him. But it reveals him to actually be a girl named Coconut, a protagonist from Game 2. That might have been a revelation if they hadn't been dropping hints like they were hot all game. Yeah, I know. Out there, everyone. Doesn't every girl keep the same hairstyle between the ages of 11 and 16? Wait a minute. You say 16 game manual. Oh no. No. I know it's only been 2 years since the events of the last game. I researched this. She's only 13. They changed it in localization to make it less creepy. Too bad, game. I'm on to you. Anyway, after cheating at the race, Soma reluctantly agrees to stop manifesting as Finnl, but she needs help in order to do that. Which involves you cramming your hand inside of her to pull out a crystal. This, Scott, there's a trophy for it. This is why I won't go back to jail, Scott. The only reason I should ever be putting my hand inside of anyone is if I'm a licensed trauma surgeon. Yeah, that was my reaction. That was me, only with a lot more sobbing. So hey, what about that whole sneaking past Tlastania thing? Well, we tried to disguise Saki, but really, you can imagine how well that goes. We get captured by Tlastania, surprise, surprise. Though we quickly escape and enter Phase 3. Wait a minute, Phase 3? Like, were we just on? Hold the phone, did we accomplish anything besides discovering that one of our members is a cross-dresser? Finally, whatever. Still, we're not doing well on these goals. Anyway, what are our goals for Phase 3? Well, protect Saki and Finnl some more so they're not, dying, and sneak past Tlastania, get to the Rinkernator, I'll say it one of these days. So we made it to Glissania. Time to sneak past into the Rinkernator, right? Well, no. Now it's time to grind. Through a combination of glowing blue catwalks and elevators, which is no change from the rest of the game, which is either rusty brown catwalks and elevators or gray underground tubes. These are the 3 scenes you get. But we finally confront the AI that controls Glissania, which accomplishes absolutely nothing, except that it reveals that a B-list dude that was on the side of the rebels is actually a traitor. No, really, the guy with 6 swords and pointy crab armor wasn't trustworthy. After this confrontation, the General Akane here agrees to take us to the Rinkernator to meet with Tyria, the Rabbitail, who can fix both of them. And in a totally unrelated move, the rebels hack into the tower, rendering all of the Rabbitails unconscious. Man, that might actually be helpful. It means I don't have to fight my way all the way up there. Except, you know, the whole hacking thing doesn't seem to affect any of my Rabbitails, like Akane, Kokona, Saki, Vinil, or any of the countless Russanian Rabbitails I have to fight on the way up the tower. I don't think they thought their cunning plan all the way through. Anyway, we make it to the Rinkernator, the Rinkening, and set about trying to summon the girl from before to fix Saki and Vinil. We perform some techno-magical mumbo-jumbo with walls and symphonies and things. We get into an unexpected timed boss fight, and like any good JRPG, this boss fight, the enemy isn't more intelligent or faster or anything, he just has millions of hit points worth of damage with question marks after it. So I lose the fight and run away with no chance to talk to Tyria. And that kicks off a whole series of misadventures which come to a head when Saki and Vinil are used to stop a swarm of deadly monsters from destroying humanity. Now, look at that dialogue. I want you guys to take a close look at reading that, because 90% of what these people say is like this. Aren't you glad I'm here to compress this for you?
What does it mean?
I wonder the same thing. Anyway, Saki gets absorbed into Vinil's mind, why not? And we have to fight our way to the real top of the tower to face that Glissanian AI who changes into battle mode and fight a 20-plus minute boss battle. I know, I kept track. We save the world, sort of. Get the girl, nothing shocking, nothing special, just your average boilerplate JRPG. That would have been bad enough. Thus ends our Tonelico. No, wait, I'm sorry. I lied completely, much like this game did. You see, our Tonelico Qoga wasn't done with me or you yet. You see, that time boss fight you can't seem to win, well, it turns out the only way to get the game's true ending is to beat that. No one tells you this until after you actually lost. The game even gives you the option to restart at that battle, because it knows it messed you out of it the first time. That's not just bad design, that is intentional bad design. They want you to play through this game some more. Oh, but you know what? You know what I did for you guys? I decided to persevere. I would slay this proverbial dragon, defeating this boss. At this point, it was still an impossible task, even carrying over my levels and equipment and money from the first one. So what did I do? I started to grind. I ground for hours, building my characters up into veritable death gods. Then, after hours of senseless, mind-numbing, repetitive violence, I finally tore that thing apart. And what was my reward? The immortal Rabbitail, Tyria, showed up and partly fixed Saki and Vinil. They're not dying anymore. Hooray! Unfortunately, Cryosleep seems to have ensured that her elevator doesn't go to the top floor anymore, in case that dialogue doesn't make it obvious. So she goes off to putter around somewhere, and I have to go through everything I had just done in my first playthrough until some bad juju starts coming out of someplace I'm supposed to care about. An evil scientist dude from before says that the world is about to be destroyed, and we end up in a new boss battle with a 10-year-old girl with dragons coming out of her shoulders named Aru. As one might expect, she wants to destroy humanity for some poorly justified reason. We win the battle, but now Raphael, science dude here, is mad at me because he wanted to destroy the world a different way, or save it, or I'm not sure. He never really makes it clear. So we go home to lick our wounds, and we kick off Phase 4. By now it feels like I've been playing the game for 4 years, but maybe we can finally get some bloody closure. Heck, we even managed to complete all of our goals this time. This was fantastic. Well, for whatever definition. And the goals of Phase 4 are pretty simple, rather trite. Other than now that we've stopped Aru, we have to stop all the other trumped-up villains from destroying the world and rejuvenate the planet, which was not any kind of a goal up until now game, but, well, whatever, why not? So we're now aided by Tyria, who becomes the 6th and final member of our entourage. She's fully armored, and all of her magic is based on orbital laser strikes. I'd be all about that. Put her in my party. I'll be happy to keep her with me. except the game is trying to set me up with her. I'm not comfortable with that. Now, following up on our whole stop all the villains goal, we confront Traitor McTraderson to prevent him from killing all humans and creating a new empire for Rabbitails, which it's not like they don't already have in Flesania. But we beat the crap out of his big dragon form, and then we have to go beat up the dragon girl, Aru, again, so that we can, tell her our feelings, only to end up kicking the stuffing out of her anyway, because negotiations were going so poorly. Then we have to face off against Raphael, who's trying to evolve humans and Rabbitails into some kind of new species to adapt to the world. See, this is why you never trust a platinum-haired guy in any JRPG. We have to also fight that weird AI program who was the boss the first time. Again, in another 20-minute boss battle. So let's recap. I want to destroy the world. No, I want to destroy the world. No, I will destroy the world. All of you, shut your jabbering skull case. Oh, I'm sick of all of you. But with the villain out of the way, it's time to regenerate the planet because, we're out of other heroic stuff to do. Now we have to make a freaking satellite. I don't know they had a space program. Sure, why not? And sing a super magical duper song to summon a giant image of the goddess to shoot us out of a railgun, literally, into the core of the planet. For the inevitable multi-stage boss battle with the living will of the planet itself. Now, I know some of you think that sounds awesome, but the sheer amount of crap you have to go through to get there is mind-boggling, and frankly, it is way less cool than it sounds. Now, we're supposed to tell the planet our feelings to make the world less crappy or whatever, because the planet, knows that's the kind of thing. Which, as you might guess from this point, amounts to beating her to a pulp. It's basically like this. Yeah, so we beat the boss. We get the girl, and the world is less crap now. Huzzah! Now, I don't want to let you jerks think this is over. I didn't double my playtime in this thing to get you off that easily. So the plot is convoluted, the story is dumb, the world is boring corridors, and the graphics look a full generation too old. So, what else is left after the repetitive gameplay and all this other horrible stuff? What can possibly salvage this game? What about characters? I've seen games saved by decent characters before, people I could get behind. What about our party? Are they decent folks? No, they're not. No, they are not. You see, for example here, Pinecone-haired lady has been after Sigmund Fraulein the entire game. And at one point, she offers him the opportunity to stop a villain's plan if he will simply consent to marry her. All he has to do is say yes. And he says no. We are trying to save the world, man. Say yes, I will officiate your wedding. I'll become a lawyer and I'll handle your divorce afterwards. For the good of the world, just say yes. It gets even better. At one point, one of the Rabbitails, their outside personae things come out, at random, and she hits me in the face with a sword. That was her first thing. That was the first thing she ever does. Do any of my companions react? Do they try to help me? Try to restrain her? Even ask if I'm okay? Nope. They stand there like morons. And then it happens again 20 hours later. And not one of my party members lifts a finger to help me as a woman with metal boots kicks me in the ribs. I care more, except I'm controlling this jerk. At first, he seems like a good-natured goof-off, annoying but generally harmless. I've had plenty of those in JRPGs, and that'd be enough to make me dislike him. But he tries his darndest to be as irritating as possible. For one thing, he won't shut up about being a steeplejack, he never shows any kind of steeplejacking qualities. He parrots every single plot point, place name, and event that happens the moment it comes up. He drags out conversations for days, and he's also a jerk, not just to NPCs, but also to his own party members. He would throw away the world to save just one or two people. That's not admirable, that's psychotic. He's a massive tool, is what I'm trying to say. I can't make this up. But honestly, his crowning moment comes when he tries to teach a young woman about romance. He puts on a fake French accent and, well, just take a listen.
Mademoiselle Akane, although you possess great talents, you are squandering them. How deplorable. How stupid.
Oh, it's not over.
Please, no. Of course.
No, you don't. You're getting it anyway.
John, I've always seen you really around in your jockstrap. If you don't mind, would you like to go steady?
Why do you repeat him? Do not repeat him, woman. Why? This caused me physical anguish when I first heard it. And he's just so bloody pleased with himself. I wanted to reach through the screen and choke the stupid out of him. Now he's horrible on his face, but far be it from me to limit it to just that. I mean, Aoto's relationship with the prospective heroines is even worse. They've got all of their own respective mental baggage. Now, the game more or less forces you to choose between one of the three of them. You've got Saki here that we met at the beginning. Unfortunately, there's nothing about her that I could possibly recommend. I'm just not comfortable taking advantage of a girl who is mentally damaged, game. So Saki is right out. What about Tyria here? Yeah, nope. I don't care how old you say she is, game. I'm not trying to hook up with someone who looks like she's 12. End of story. We're done. So we're left with Finnell. A self-hating, traumatized girl with a tragic past who also sounds like this half the time. Gosh darn it.
Yeah, I like you so much, Aldo. I want to be with you.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I never wanted to make this choice. You may as well have asked me where I wanted to be punched for all the good it did me. So we come to my absolute favorite aspect of our Tonelico, diving. You see, rather than explore the characters' motivations or actions by, seeing them or just having them, tell us, we have to explore a world called the Cosmosphere, which is without exception utterly messed up and usually hiding some tragic past or mental trauma. And as always, Finnell here isn't too keen on letting you go deeper into her mind. Unless, of course, it offers the game a chance to flaunt that innuendo it's so famous for. In which case, she clings to you like a life raft in the Atlantic. This kind of stuff happens a lot, especially when the other personae get involved. This scene is exactly as creepy as it looks. But alongside the silliness, people keep talking about Finnell's lack of confidence and self-loathing. And the kind of jarring tone shift like this happens quite often, since early levels play out like board games or self-aware JRPG tropes. Notice all of the capitalization and the fact that she only has 5 letters in her name. Or a later level that involves a courtroom scene where you listen to manifestations of the party bully her over inane stuff. And that could have been tolerable, if not good, except that Aoto thinks that the best thing he can do while inside a traumatized girl's mind is to play up a master-servant gag that he's been running and has been old since the first time he said it. Seriously, he will not shut up about it. It gets particularly worrying when you find out that Finnell has struggled with depression and thoughts of suicide. We find out that she was intentionally tormented by other Raventails while growing up as a means to make her more useful to Clostania's evil plans. And the only way to fix her is to force her to face all of those memories and make you the only thing that she can rely on to stave off her inevitable self-destruction. So yes, you force an acutely depressed girl, thanks to the trophy again, to face a childhood of literal torture, then rebuild her mind with you as the only thing that can protect her. This means that Aoto, and by extension the player, is a monster. You shatter this young woman's mind. And then you rebuild it based on what you want her to think of you. Now, her new world, that's not as depressing as the old one. Unfortunately, it has things like this. You know what that means. Don't say that. And it also has a giant robot representation of Aoto in the center. What kind of relationship are you trying to accomplish with this? But it's okay, the game says. It's okay that you're abusive and angry and always threatening her with, doing menial tasks or whatever. Because she's into it. I can't go on. I don't care anymore. Now, one day. So yes, in conclusion, Tonelico Qoga is quantifiably awful. It is the culmination of a trilogy meticulously designed to be the most disconcerting, unenjoyable mess that gaming can offer. 3 years, 3 awful games, 133 hours of my life spent burnt on a pyre of despair. All for you. I hope you're happy. To quote the actual game, it is a horrendous monstrosity that has forced its way into existence, and we are, as a species, But I did learn one thing. One important lesson on women from Tonelico before you go. Some of them want to use you.
Oh no.
Some of them want to be used by you.
Don't do it.
Some of them want to abuse you. And some of them want to be abused. So remember, don't play these games. For your own sake, save yourselves. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Adam, did you say it was supposed to be 3?